BMW 1 Series. The 1 Series is BMW's entry-level saloon, but calling it a starter car undersells what it actually is. The current F40 generation, launched in 2019 and updated since, made a controversial but calculated move to a front-wheel drive platform, the UKL2 architecture shared with Mini and several Stellantis models. BMW's core audience bristled at the idea. A front-wheel drive BMW felt to many like a contradiction in terms, but the engineering team made a case that was hard to argue with. The switch freed up cabin space, lowered the center of gravity in real-world driving conditions, and allowed for better packaging of electrified drivetrains. The interior grew noticeably as a result, and rear passenger space finally became genuinely usable rather than merely adequate. The engine range spans from a 109 horsepower 118 EUR petrol at the base through to the M135i xDrive, which uses a 2.0-liter turbocharged four-cylinder, producing 306 horsepower sent through an all-wheel drive system. The M135i is the controversial one, quick, competent, and electronically sharp, but lacking the rear drive playfulness that older M performance models offered. For urban commuters and daily drivers who simply want premium quality, responsive performance, and the BMW badge, the 1 Series makes a very strong argument. It competes directly with the Mercedes A-Class and Audi A3, and in terms of driver engagement, it edges both, even on the front-wheel drive platform. By 2025 and into 2026, the 1 Series is expected to receive a meaningful update. BMW will bring the curved iDrive 8.5 display into this class, closing the technology gap between entry-level and mid-range models. Mild hybrid assistance is expected on the petrol variants, reducing fuel consumption figures and helping compliance with tightening European emissions rules. A revised front end with updated lighting graphics is also anticipated. The 1 Series will not become rear-wheel drive again, that decision appears permanent, but within the constraints of its platform, it remains a sharper, more characterful product than its segment competitors. BMW 2 Series Active Tourer. The 2 Series Active Tourer is the model that probably surprises people most when they learn it exists. BMW built its entire reputation on low, wide, rear-wheel drive sports saloons, and then quietly launched a tall front-wheel drive family van that became one of its best-selling vehicles in Europe. The first generation arrived in 2014 and was treated internally as an experiment. The second generation, launched in 2022, was treated as a confirmed success. BMW gave it a proper interior overhaul, a curved display lifted from the larger 4 and 5 Series, and a powertrain lineup that leaned heavily into electrification. The plug-in hybrid 225e is the configuration that sells in the highest volumes across Germany, the UK, and the Netherlands. It pairs a 1.5-liter 3-cylinder petrol engine with an electric motor to produce a combined 245 horsepower and offers around 60 kilometers of electric-only range in WLTP testing. For company car drivers whose employers reimburse fuel costs but not electricity, and whose daily commutes fall within that electric range, it represents an almost unbeatable proposition. Running costs drop significantly, taxation in many European countries is reduced, and the practicality of the long wheelbase body means school runs, airport trips, and weekend furniture hauls are all handled without compromise. The diesel 218D remains available for higher mileage users, and a 7-seat variant expands the Active Tourer's appeal further for larger families. Competitors include the Mercedes B-Class and the Volkswagen Golf SV, neither of which can match the Active Tourer's technology package or plug-in hybrid execution at comparable price points. By 2026, BMW is expected to extend the electric range of the 225e beyond 70 kilometers through battery capacity improvements, and to offer a revised all-wheel drive plug-in hybrid variant for markets where winter traction is a priority. BMW 2 Series Coupé. The 2 Series Coupé exists as a deliberate counterpoint to everything the Active Tourer represents. Where that car is practical and family-oriented, the Coupé is compact, rear-wheel drive, and built around the experience of driving rather than the logistics of it. The G42 generation launched in 2021 on the CLA-R platform, the same rear-wheel drive architecture used by the 3 and 4 Series, and immediately separated itself from the Active Tourer in character and intent. The two cars share a name and nothing else of consequence. The engine range begins with the 220i, a 2.0-liter 4-cylinder producing 184 horsepower that offers a nimble, enjoyable daily driver. The 230i steps up to 245 horsepower with noticeably sharper throttle response. At the top of the standard range sits the M240i xDrive, powered by a B58 3.0-liter turbocharged straight 6, producing 374 horsepower through all-wheel drive. That engine, shared in various states of tune across much of BMW's M Performance lineup, delivers a quality of power delivery that feels genuinely premium. The straight six pulls smoothly from low revs and builds with real authority toward its limit. In a car this size, the effect is quite dramatic. What makes the 2 Series Coupé significant in the broader context of BMW's lineup is what it represents for the future. As BMW pushes more of its mainstream range toward front-wheel drive and electrification, the Coupé stands as one of the last remaining compact rear-wheel drive options in the brand's portfolio. When the next generation arrives, likely after 2026, there are genuine questions about whether it will retain that platform or follow the 1 Series into the front drive world. For now, it holds its ground. Competitors like the Audi TT have been discontinued, making the 2 Series Coupé increasingly rare in its segment. BMW 3 Series. The 3 Series is BMW's most important car. Not most expensive, not most powerful, most important. It is the model around which the brand's identity was built across the 1980s and 1990s, the car that established BMW as the driver's choice in the compact executive segment, and the nameplate that the entire company uses as a reference point when evaluating whether a new model feels sufficiently BMW-like. The current G20 generation has been in production since 2018, received a mid-cycle refresh in 2022, and remains the benchmark against which the Mercedes C-Class Audi A4 and Volvo S60 are measured. The engine lineup is extensive. Diesel buyers can choose the 318D at 150 horsepower for maximum efficiency, or the 320D at 190 horsepower for a better balance of performance and economy. Petrol options begin with the 320i and climb through the 330i to the 340i, which uses the B58 straight six to produce 374 horsepower in M Sport guise. The 330e plug-in hybrid has become increasingly significant in the sales mix, offering around 50 kilometers of electric range and a combined system output of 292 horsepower. Fleet buyers across Europe have moved heavily toward it for tax efficiency reasons, and BMW has responded by making it one of the better developed PHEVs in the class. The transition between electric and combustion modes is smooth and largely imperceptible. The M3 sits at the pinnacle. The current G80 M3 uses the S58 twin-turbocharged straight six in 2 states of tune, 480 horsepower in competition form, 510 horsepower in competition X-Drive specification. It is by any objective measure one of the greatest performance saloons ever built. Fast, adjustable, communicative, and still usable as a daily car in ways that pure sports machines are not. The M3 CS pushes further still to 543 horsepower, with weight savings achieved through carbon fiber components and a focused suspension setup. By 2026, the 3 Series is expected to receive updates to its plug-in hybrid system and an expansion of the driver assistance package, bridging the gap until the Neue Klasse replacement arrives later in the decade. BMW 3 Series Touring. The 3 Series Touring is the version that, in many European markets, quietly outsells the saloon it is derived from. Germans in particular buy Tourings in remarkable numbers. The practical estate body with a wide, low-loading tailgate suits a culture of long motorway journeys, ski holidays, and a general preference for cars that work hard across multiple types of use. The Touring adds around 40 liters of boot space over the saloon in its base configuration, and with the rear seats folded, it opens into a genuinely van-like load area. Crucially, BMW has never treated the Touring as a compromised version of the saloon. It shares the same chassis settings, the same engine range, and the same M Sport visual and dynamic packages. The 330DX Drive Touring, in particular, is one of those rare cars that can credibly be described as almost perfect for its intended purpose. Enough power to cover ground effortlessly, enough space to carry everything a family needs, and enough dynamic ability to make the driver's time behind the wheel rewarding rather than merely functional. The M3 Touring deserves its own mention. Launched in 2022, it was the first estate body ever offered on an M3, and it sold out almost immediately. BMW had resisted building it for years, arguing that it would dilute the M3's sporting credentials. When they finally relented, they went all in. 510 horsepower, X-Drive all-wheel drive, an active rear differential, and a suspension system that manages somehow to be both track-ready and comfortable on a motorway. It carries a full set of golf bags at the same speed most sports cars struggle to achieve on a circuit. By 2026, the Touring will continue alongside the saloon through the remaining life of the G20 platform. BMW 4 Series Coupé. The 4 Series Coupé launched in 2020 and immediately became one of the most talked about car designs of that year, for the wrong reasons, according to many observers. BMW's chief designer at the time, G42 doubled down on the kidney grille, enlarging it to a size that polarized the automotive press and generated widespread debate. Months after launch, it was still the dominant topic in reviews. What was less discussed, and what became clearer over time, was that the car underneath the grille was genuinely excellent. The 4 Series sits lower and wider than the 3 Series saloon, despite sharing the same CLAR platform. It uses different front and rear subframe geometry, a wider track, and stiffer body structure that translate into a noticeably more planted and precise driving character. The M44OI xDrive, powered by the B58 straight 6 at 374 horsepower, is the sweet spot of the range, refined enough for motorway cruising, sharp enough for the occasional spirited back road, and visually distinctive enough to justify the premium over the 3 Series. It competes with the Audi A5 Coupé and the Mercedes C-Class Coupé, both of which offer a similar formula, but neither of which matches the BMW's steering feel or chassis balance. The M4 sits at the top using the S58 engine in competition specification at 510 horsepower, with rear-wheel drive as standard and xDrive all-wheel drive available. The M4 CSL, a limited production variant capped at 1,000 units worldwide, stripped weight, added a fixed rear wing, and pushed power to 543 horsepower. It was sold out before most customers had seen one in the metal. By 2026, the 4 Series Coupé is expected to continue in its current form with software refinements, updated connectivity features, and the introduction of a 48-volt mild hybrid system on selected petrol engines to aid fuel economy without softening the driving character. BMW 4 Series Grand Coupé. The 4 Series Grand Coupé takes the visual language of the Coupé and stretches it across 4 doors and a fastback roofline. It looks lower and sleeker than the 3 Series saloon, carries a similarly large kidney grille up front, and offers a genuinely attractive alternative for buyers who find the 2-door Coupé impractical, but still want a car with Coupé proportions. The fastback silhouette does cost some rear headroom compared to the saloon. Taller passengers will notice on longer journeys, but for most buyers the trade is worth it for the way the car looks parked outside. The practicality story is stronger than the Coupés in every other respect. The boot is accessed through a full hatchback-style tailgate, which opens the rear of the car into a usable, versatile load space. The rear seat is wider than in the Coupé, and the lower roofline doesn't intrude as severely on headroom as the visual profile might suggest. The engine range mirrors that of the Coupé exactly, from the entry 420i through the diesel 420D and 430D to the M440i xDrive at the top of the standard range. The Grand Coupé occupies an important strategic position in BMW's lineup as the body style of choice for the i4. BMW chose the Grand Coupé silhouette, 4 doors, fastback roof, hatchback tailgate, as the shape that best communicates the i4's dual identity as both a practical daily car and a performance-oriented electric. The two cars share their outer body panels but sit on different platform architectures, reflecting BMW's decision during the G26 generation to develop its electric and combustion models on separate underpinnings before the Neue Klasse unification arrives. Updates through 2026 will focus on feature and software parity with the i4 rather than major mechanical changes.